Hey everyone, this is the second lesson of Advanced Python, your Epico guide by Chun and Andy Diep. Okay, so last time we went over what is programming and what you can achieve by going into programming and STEM related subjects. Um, we went into printing, user input, variables, and different data types. We went through concatenation and casting variables. We went over the different type of operators like arithmetic operators, assignment operators, etc. And we went over the lists and dictionaries. And the optional homework and project last week were just review the slides and do this Madlib project where you just ask the user to type in like nouns or verbs or adjectives or stuff like that. And here's a project that Sean and I liked, and when the identity of this person is just it's going to stay anonymous.
It says Jeff.
Wait, does it? Oh, right.
That's funny. Yeah, Jeff, you did a nice job.
Pretend that's out there or something. Oh, okay, this is bad.
That's funny.
Okay. So first, I'm going to talk about conditionals. So conditionals are basically they're if and else statements, and these lines of code can only be executed or run if a certain condition is met. And how do you code a conditional? So first you start, you type if, and then you follow up with a certain condition. And no parentheses are required for this conditional. And the lines of code are only executed within the tabs. And we'll go further into explanation in the next few slides. After if statements, you can usually follow up with elif statements, which stands for else if, and it allows you to check for other true conditions. And you're allowed to put as many elif statements as you want. And there are also else statements. There are conditionals that run if the if statement condition is false. And unlike elif statements, there can only be one else statement. And also the syntax for conditionals, that's very different from other languages. So the statements after the if or elif, they end with a colon. And unlike some other programming languages, the indentation is required. And if it's not indented right, then the program won't run. And also there are logical operators. There's and. You can put these into your if, elif, and else statements. So there's and that returns something if returns true if both statements are true in the if statement. There's or, it will return true if one of the statements is true. And there's not, which returns false if the statement is true. Now I'm going to be talking about logic gates. This I don't really know how to apply, how it can be applied, but it's something interesting. So logic gates are they implement Boolean functions and use the logical operators. And right here that says the three types of logic gates. There's the AND gate, the OR gate, and NOT gate. Same names as the operators mentioned last slide. And they return binary output 0 and 1. And I guess you could think of 0 as false and 1 as true. And here are some logic gate examples. And these right here, these are functions. We'll get into that in over time. So here's some if and else statement. So if A is equals 1 and B equals 1, then it will return true. And if not, then it will return false. And right here it says if name equals main, I'm not really sure about that, but yeah, there are four print statements here, and it uses the logic gates here, so it puts these numbers in the same format as A, B, and this function will only return true if A is 1 and B is 1 with 1, 1. So that's why the program returns false, 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 true. And right here, this is an OR logic gate. So it's different than the AND logic gate where it says AND here. And the OR logic gate has the if statement and an elif statement. So it'll separately ask about A equals 1 and B equals 1. And the OR logic gate will again use these same print statements, so 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 1, and 1, 1. And this time, it'll return false, true, 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 because there's 1 here, there's 1 here, and there's 1 in both A and B. Wait just a second, I heard someone ask to join. And here are some conditional examples. So right here, I gave them a value of 150. And here's some if statements here and elif statements. So I said if num is equal to 200, then print 1, the condition has been met. And then print out num. And then elif num is equal to 100, then print 2, the condition has been met. Elif num equals 150, then print 3, the condition has been met. And else then say the condition has not been met. And the program will return 3, the condition has been met, because obviously num is equal to 150.
Could I say something?
Yeah.
All right. So notice how the code is tabbed. So if, for example, you get the number of tabs or spaces, if it's not the same, then it will not be executed. That segment of the code will not be executed. So be very careful to get your tabs and spacing right for the lines of code.
So yeah, to add to that, like this is called like white space. So you need like the same number of white space indentations, otherwise the program won't really work. And here, this is basically the same as this example right here. So I just made a variable called bur equals -5. And if bur is greater than 0, then I say that this number is positive. And else if bur is less than 0, then I'll say this number is negative. And else print the number is 0. And the program returns this number is negative, and it prints out the variable here.
Okay, so now we're going to learn about looping. So looping simply means to repeat a block of code a certain amount of times. And so there's two different types of loops. The first one that we're going to learn is the while loop. And basically a while loop is a loop or a piece of code that repeats until the condition is false. So in order to make a while loop, all you have to do is type while and then the condition. And then so this is similar to the if and else statement. You don't have to use parentheses. And it's the same thing. So make sure your tabs are right. And then, yeah, it will run the code. And so a special thing that you can do about while loops is that if a certain condition is met, you can actually type an if-else statement within the while loop. And if a certain condition is met, then you can use the keyword break, and break will just simply stop. And you can also use the keyword continue if a certain condition is met. And yeah. So the second one we're going to learn about is a for loop, which iterates throughout the elements of a string or a list. So for loops are used for arrays and anything that has to do with strings. You can use that. It's very useful. And so the for loop will repeat until all elements within a string or list is iterated through. And so the syntax is kind of hard to explain, and it's just easier to explain through examples. So, oh gosh, that voice crack. Okay. Yeah. So can we see the next slide? Okay. So this is the first example of a while loop. What you need to do is, for this example, we need to set an integer or like a counter. So what I did here was I set x equal to 0. And so here's our condition. While x is less than 10, right? And then you have the colon. You print out x. And then, so you need the statement x plus equals 1, right? And so it'll keep looping until that condition is false. And so when x equals 10, the program cuts. So this is a very basic example of the while loop.
Wait, can I exit out the slides for a second?
Yeah. Very nice.
Okay, there we go.
All right, next slide, please. All right, so this is the same thing, but this was another example of how you can use if statements to check for certain conditions within the loop. And so here I said if x equals 5, then you print that number. So you can see on the right hand side, whoa, it's number 5. And then you can also do if x equals 8, and then if that certain condition is met, then you can break the statement. So if I didn't add that break statement, it would keep adding until it would repeat 10 times.
Like, for example, it would add the number 9 if there was no break if x equals 8.
Yeah.
Next slide.
Yeah. This is the opposite of the first example. So you can also do it the other way. So you can subtract. So what I did was I set x equal to 10, and then I set the conditional. So if x is greater than 0, then it keeps running, and it prints 10, and then it subtracts 1 each time. So you can see going from 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. So that's a very simple example. Next slide. Okay, so here's what I meant by for loops. So here I have an array. I have a list of names, and so those are the elements. Chun, Andy, Dayoung, Andrew, Bro. Okay, and so then you can think of so the keyword after for, you can name it anything you want. So the for you can name anything, x, y, z, names, anything. So that the word after for is a variable. And so what it does for the for loop is that it sets that variable name to the element of whatever object you have. So for each name inside the list of names, right? And so it sets that name to the element, right? And then it keeps setting that for each loop. And then it just runs through the entire list. And so on the right-hand side, you can see that it ran through the entire list. Right? So that's an example of a for loop. And then, so for this is a very fast loop. Like if you wanted to repeat something and you don't and so like for example, if you saw the first while loop, right? You had to write x equals 10, and then x is less than 10, and then so like if you don't want to do that, you can just do this also. Do this faster. It's a little bit faster and cleaner. So you can do for I or any variable name you want in the range. So a range function basically returns a list. With a certain range of A and B. That's the parameter. So you can do 0 through 10, 10 through 100, or you can do whatever you want. And then you can do print I. And so you can see here that it printed all the elements of that list of the range function. Next slide. Here I wanted to do a little bit more an advanced example. So basically, I have the names. And then so the names Sean, Dayoung, Andrew, right? And then you have another array that's empty, right? And so what I wanted to do is that for each name, right? So the name is the variable inside of the list names, right? Take that name and then print it, right? And then what I also wanted to do is get the second list, right? And then add the name plus bro, right? And then it did that for all of the elements inside the first array. And then it set that equal to, or it added that to the list. So you can see here on the right hand side, it printed it through all of it, right? And then the it also printed the second list, right? And so that's the new list that I made. So it's useful for editing and creating new arrays too. All right, so that's basically it. Yeah,
Yeah, that was way too
that was
fast.
basically it. It's very simple. So yeah.
I feel like the
Oh
for
yeah,
loop stuff is the
Jeff
most
came in
difficult.
late, bruh. Okay, anyways, so basically what we did was we looked over our favorite project, and Jeff, you got the honors, right? And then so then we went over conditionals and looping, and that's basically it. Next slide. So the homework is to review the slides and research into conditionals, loops, and other things. And so the project that we wanted to have was create a text-based adventure that has different outcomes depending on what the user makes. And then so you can use like for loops to repeat, or while loops to repeat the story, and then you can have conditionals to have different outcomes. So yeah, that's what we came up with.
Don't be like Telltale Games.